There's a lot going wrong in Calgary right now, and Montreal holds their pick for 2025. We're going to be talking about this whole Calgary implosion and their star players not wanting to come back and how it affects the Habs. Plus, on TSN 690 earlier today, Darren Dreger said Kent Hughes is exploring a bunch of options, a bunch of trades coming up for this draft. And finally, we're going to talk a bit about Denis Gurianov and whether or not the Habs might see him back in action next season for them. So, without further ado, let's get right into this edition of Habs Digest. And the first thing we're going to talk about is this Calgary Flames situation. If any of you have been following this, especially Frank Saravalli, who apparently just woke up this morning and decided, nah, I don't want the Calgary Flames fans to have any fun. He just went on a rampage on Twitter. Just post after post after post, first saying that they rolled out the red carpet to try and re-sign Elias Lindholm, and they're waiting for a response, but league speculation said he's leaning towards not re-signing. They said they got a direct answer from Hanifin, who indicates he does not plan to sign an extension, and Michael Backlund, a guy who's been there for 15 years, said he's probably not going to re-sign, and a tweet that I didn't even include here, Tyler Toffoli was the most recent addition to this list, saying that he kind of wants a trade to leave Calgary. So, Jesse, that's a lot to break down. First of all, what are your opinions of this whole fiasco in Calgary? And second of all, how good does it feel that Montreal has their 2025 pick with this going on? Of course, barring some extra protections that are surrounding that pick.
I'm not even a Calgary Flames fan, but all this news kind of hurts all the same, right?
Does,
Imagine
man.
You're the new GM, Craig Conroy, and you're just seeing pretty much all of your best players just want to jump town, right? And as we've seen, this has kind of been almost a small trend, dare I say, kind of late. But you have to feel like, does Sean Monahan find this situation funny? Maybe a little bit. Is Daryl Sutter probably the one to blame the most for this? Probably. But let's not forget Johnny Gaudreau, which kind of started this whole fiasco, right?
True.
Because, this time last year, or shortly thereafter, they were pegged as one of the Stanley Cup contenders, one of the best teams in the league. And as we've seen, the mighty have fallen really quick. Now, it's not an absolute lock that they're just going to stay on that downward trajectory by the time that first pick comes around in 2025. But it's looking there right now. It's a really fluid situation. I feel like it's got to be a little bit of karma, right? Our Florida first round pick went down. It's only right that Calgary pick would go up.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I should clarify, too. We're not here saying, haha, Flames fans. No. Again, like we said, we kind of feel bad. But at the same time, we just have to look at what the facts are. Montreal has their pick in 2025. This is a Montreal channel. We're going to talk about it. Now, I know that 2025 pick has a lot of protections going on. If you want to go to Twitter, Marco D'Amico had a good breakdown of exactly how it'll work over the next couple of years. Now, I'm not going to try and explain it here, but basically, Jesse, it doesn't only depend on Calgary doing poorly, let's say 2 years from now. It also depends on how Florida does, because depending on Florida's performance, their pick might get transferred to Calgary, and there's some other teams where there's just a lot of moving parts to this. But in all likelihood, if things fall apart in Calgary, if Elias Lindholm decides to leave, and if Noah Hanifin decides to leave, they might get some value for these guys, right? They might be able to trade them for a bit less than full value, especially if these guys agree to extensions with the new team that they're getting traded to. But if they do poorly, Montreal, in all likelihood, especially if Florida has a bit of a Stanley Cup hangover, will get a good pick in 2025. So I know you mentioned Sean Monahan. I don't think he's ever smiled in his life. I feel like he's not finding this funny at all. But at the same time, we kind of talked about this before, but a 2025 first-round pick for a team like Montreal right now, do you think if Montreal gets a good pick in that draft, let's say it's in the lottery, do you think in 2025, I guess it depends on the draft class, that they'd be more likely to move it or they'd be more likely to take the pick? Because I feel like in a couple of years from now, they might be looking to move a solid pick to get a really, really good player.
It's a great question. There's definitely two schools of thought on that. The other school of thought would be that we're probably entering our contention window and having one of those kind of cheap entry-level contracts of maybe a player that can jump into the lineup, plug and play very soon after. As we've seen, it's been a blueprint for a lot of teams to really win, that you almost need those in a lot of different sports, right? Where get guys on those cheaper contracts, kind of starting out definitely helps with your championship aspirations to kind of build around in other ways as well. So it's definitely an interesting situation to look at in the future. But, I feel like it's Kent Hughes' mastery, his vision for the future, his predictions. I don't think he absolutely foresaw this, but just another genius move from Kent Hughes. This deal is just getting better by the day.
For sure. And it's a fluid situation. We'll keep you guys updated on what's going on there. But yeah, interesting to keep an eye on. The big thing I want to talk about today, though, Jesse, the big thing that we want to discuss Kent Hughes' master draft plan. Now, we know Kent Hughes is not afraid on the big stage at the draft to be making deals. He did it last year, and all indications are pointing to him doing it again this year. This morning on TSN 690, Darren Dreger said, quote, Kent Hughes is having lots of different trade conversations. There's potential for the Montreal Canadiens to be a bigger player, but it has to make sense long term. And that's everyone from Dubois to potentially moving down in the draft. So we've spoken about Dubois at length. We're going to leave that for now. There's lots of other videos you can go watch on Dubois here on this channel or some other channels. But I'm interested in the trading up or down in the draft, because we've seen some rumors saying Kent Hughes wants maybe Adam Fantilli at number 2. But I've also seen some things saying like, what if, at number 5, another team really wants Matvei Michkov? How much would they be willing to pay Montreal to get him at that spot? Is there a world where Kent Hughes trades 5 for, like, number 6 in Arizona's pick, and they give Montreal some other compensation, so Montreal can still get what might be their guy and someone like Ryan Leonard if they're available, right? So, I don't know, what are your thoughts on this, and do you think we'll see another draft night trade this year?
I think there's a very high likelihood that we could see a trade, but what I like about all of this is he's only going to do it with the long-term vision in mind.
Yeah.
And this has really been the MO of Kent Hughes from the beginning. That's what I've really liked about him. His whole approach is it's not about what's best for him. It's not trying to make himself look good. It's what's best for the Montreal Canadiens long-term. I think he has a very specific vision and even timeline of where he wants this team to be. And I think they're sticking exactly to that. That being said, however, I really feel like if we are going to make a move on draft day, it's either we're staying put or we're going to be moving up. Mm-hmm. Because as we know, as part of Kent Hughes' plan, Jeff Gordon's plan is that we're looking to be more competitive. We're looking to get better. So you have to feel like we're not going to get a chance at another high draft pick for probably another really long time. So we would be so lucky to actually we're actually so lucky that this is such a deep draft class, because this might be one of our few kicks at the can for these high draft picks for a while, and we're going to get an amazing one, arguably one who would have been first overall any other year, right? So if you look at it, it's almost like we got the first overall pick, and with the depth of this year, it's almost like we're getting 2 first overall picks in one way. So, I mean, that's definitely helping to speed up the rebuild, and we're definitely going to make the most of it.
I hope so, because, I mean, I don't know, but the thing is, Kent Hughes seems unpredictable. We don't know if these picks, is there a world where the number 5 pick gets traded for a good player that fits the timeline, whether it's Dubois or someone else, right? I don't know. I feel like trading up for number 2, while awesome in theory, I just don't know if there's a world where, Anaheim is looking to really move it. Number 1's obviously completely off the table. But I also, it wouldn't be crazy if a team really wants to throw the bag at Montreal to get access to Michkov. I mean, Michkov could go anywhere in the top 10 in this draft. We have no idea, except number 1. He's not going number 1. But he could go anywhere else, right? So the thing is, it depends how much a team wants him. And if a team really wants to get him and they're afraid that he might go 6, 7, 8, you don't know, and you can get him guaranteed at number 5, maybe a team's willing to overpay for someone like Michkov with that skill set. So very, very interesting. We'll be keeping our eye on it, but I'm excited to see what Kent Hughes has in store. Final topic today, another little Kent Hughes thing, I suppose, but it's more so about Denis Gurianov. Little tweet from Marc Gaudin this morning. Right here. As of tonight, last night, not this morning. As of tonight, I'm told, even though he is not going to receive a qualifying offer from the Canadiens, Denis Gurianov returning to Montreal is not completely ruled out. I think it will depend on certain things Hughes and Gorton try to do in the days leading up to the draft. Now, as we take a look at Gurianov's stats, Jesse, he definitely was more productive in Montreal than in Dallas. Much more productive, about twice as productive in Montreal than he was Dallas. Still not quite in that 20-goal form that we saw him in his first full season in the NHL. I don't know. He's not going to get the qualifying offer, which is $3 million, and I don't think he's worth it. But what are your thoughts on maybe Gurianov coming back at a much lower price tag for a year or two?
I haven't ruled it out, and I don't think Kent Hughes has either. As we know, when he first came to the team, Kent Hughes said that we have a plan to keep Denis Gurianov around for a while. And obviously, they wanted to kind of use this as a tryout, but they had identified some key things about his game that would be a good fit with the Montreal Canadiens. Now his speed definitely works really well with the type of game that we like to play. Obviously, just the one big knock on Denis Gurianov is just sometimes that effort, that compete level. We know he has the skill, but kind of turning it on and off. And I don't know, maybe I just have some PTSD from some past Habs, maybe with the initials of J and D, where you see where they have all the skill in the world, but they're not bringing that effort every night. And as a fan, that kind of drives you crazy a little bit. For me, one of the things I feel like we're looking for the most, and even for Martin St. Louis, is very accepting, very positive, but he wants to see that energy. He wants to see you competing. He wants to see you trying. And Denis Gurianov is coming to camp, with that in mind, gets, a deal like that. I'm open to looking into it because he's a little bit more of like an unknown variable
Yeah.
where we know we're kind of getting at this point. I would say, unfortunately, with Joel Armia, even with Mike Hoffman, even though he's not a terrible player, it's like if we could somehow maybe shed that salary through whatever means, I would be open to maybe seeing if Denis Gurianov could step into that type of play. He could be maybe a good fixture on that second power play, possibly. So he could be a good fit, but it would need to be at a good price, and we would definitely need to keep it like on a short leash for now, just until he proves himself a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree too. And I mean, I guess other teams are going to be looking at him as well. And there's a lot of stuff going on. The way I kind of see it is that you get him at like exactly your thoughts. Actually, we're really on the same page. Like if you get Gurianov at say 2 years, $3 million total, like 1.5 per season, you're getting more than a third of a Mike Hoffman, at least production-wise, for a third of the price, right? And again, it's all on Kent Hughes to maybe shed the salary of someone like Hoffman or Armia, and we know he's looking into all kinds of different trade possibilities, so you gotta assume that some of these possibilities are including shedding some bad contracts. But again, he's like third line, fourth line guy who can play a decent bit of special teams, well, power play only, but he has a rocket of a shot, right? And I feel like at the right price tag, it's not a terrible idea. But, other teams are going to come knocking, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts to this. But to get him back in a small contract, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, like you said, he's getting towards being a known variable, but right now he's still fairly unknown, with some good potential, some good speed, rocket of a shot. I say at the right price, why not take the shot? That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're less than 50 subscribers away from 6,000. We thank you guys for your support, and we hope you stick around for a long time. I'm Josh Gosse for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.